good to see you. It's been, what, 2 months?
Which is a lifetime in Web3, I think. But yeah, lovely to see you. So, Genevieve, it's a pleasure to always be here on the stage with you. Maybe we should start by giving everyone a little bit of an intro to each of ourselves. If you want to start.
You start.
Okay, fair enough. Hello, everyone. I am Becks Perfect. I am the founder of Nifty World NFT, a educational platform for new and existing digital wallets. So I'm here to make NFTs easy to understand.
And thanks so much, Becks. I'm Genevieve, and I'm the CEO of AgriLedger. We use blockchain distributed ledger technology to empower smallholder farmers and really pushing the envelope of how we can create better financial instrument for them. It's so wonderful to see you. And Becks, I'd love to for you to really talk about what's going on in the NFT world. Every day is changing. Yesterday, it was 8.
Oh yes, yeah. The Bored Ape Yacht Club. They, every week there's some sort of announcement that changes the game. And I think we started maybe thinking in this month that we're in a bit of a bear market. And then the Bored Apes drop their ape coin. They drop their hint of their move into the metaverse, and then they drop their other side trailer, which really shows how the Bored Ape Yacht Club are proving themselves as the equivalent of maybe the Nikes and the Apples, but in the Web3 space. So it is always exciting. I think you can't even take 24 hours off and you suddenly feel like you've missed out on a lifetime. But that's just one of the huge things that's moving the NFT space at the moment.
No, and I'm hoping really, if you could even explain what is an NFT, because I know your platform is beautiful for that. And I encourage people to go and find her on YouTube and become one of her millions of followers. But it would be great if you could explain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not quite millions of followers yet. We're all still very new to this space, but it's growing slowly but steadily. But yeah, my YouTube channel is all about making NFTs easy to understand. So you can just type in Nifty World NFT on YouTube and you'll be able to find me and lots of videos that will help you debunk the world of NFTs. So if we start with what an NFT is, it stands for non-fungible token. And the non-fungible part is probably the most important part because it means that something is essentially one of a kind. So it cannot be interchanged. If you're going to buy something that is an NFT, it literally is a one of a kind piece of digital asset. Could be art, could be, something else that is completely unique. And a lot of the kind of forms in which this takes place is anything from, like I say, one of one art, a utility-based collection, play to earn gaming, lots of other kind of different types within the NFT space at the moment. And the token side of things makes it essentially gives you the idea that it is an access token. So it will unlock lots of great benefits for you. So maybe it is, from a utility point of view, it's something that gives you the opportunity to be part of an exclusive membership club, which, if I'm talking about the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that's exactly what that is. You feel like you're part of a community that is incredibly exclusive. You get access to merchandise, you get access to events, to, well, as we've seen with the ape coin drop, just for holding an NFT from the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you get access to essentially a cryptocurrency that they've just dropped. And all of this is through the transparency of the blockchain. So everything, the reason why it's unique is because it is written on the ledger that is the blockchain and for everyone to see. And if you were to purchase an NFT, you'll be able to see exactly who bought that before or who minted it, and you can follow the trail right back to existence. So it's a really interesting way of using the digital space to create transparency, but also opportunity for a lot of people who want to embrace it.
No, so it's, this is something, though, you said a couple of words there, I think, that people need to look at. So one of the things I've realized is sometimes people will list a piece of art but they haven't minted it yet. Yes. So it's very important to look, has it been minted? I also understand what people are doing now is they're holding back the minting until there's a buy. So it's kind of feeling sometimes like when you're walking in the street and you see these artists with a piece of art out there, but you haven't bought it yet, so it's sitting there. And people should be looking at that aspect. And once it's minted, there is a cost for the the person who's created the art and obviously the person who's buying the art, but you're then buying something, an asset that you can have use of. But I think it's important for people to understand, am I buying something that I have exclusive right to do whatever I want with it? Am I buying something which I can only display privately? Or is it something that I can put up in the wall and charge people to come and see? And I think those are the very interesting pieces that are also coming to be through.
Yeah, and I think it kind of varies. You obviously do own the asset if you've bought that, because it is, like say, non-fungible means it's unique. So there is only one of that particular asset. But in terms of rights with it, if we look at the Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example, and I do continually come back to this because these are the trailblazers in the space, but also World of Women, Boss Beauties, lots of other great NFTs in the space. If they can grant you the commercial rights as well, you can take that particular asset and you can license it. And therefore you can earn potential royalties or other residual fees of that particular asset by making it work for you. And that's what I really love about this space, is that if you buy into the right projects, which now obviously are becoming very, very expensive, you have this opportunity of really making it work very hard for you, which is an exciting time. So you'll see news about people like Guy Oseary, signing a huge manager in the space who looked after people like Madonna, and he looked after Bono and U2 and other great artists, has now moved into Web3. And when he's signing a particular NFT project like World of Women, for example, that means that he's working with World of Women to give them the opportunity to really expand their universe. And that means for anyone that holds a World of Women asset or NFT, you will get your IP rights, your commercial rights. And if your particular asset is going to be used in TV, film, books, anything like that, you can earn from that because you own that asset. So it's an exciting time.
No, I have to tell you, I'm one of those people who love my art on the wall. So I'm having challenges, mostly since we do know that sometimes it can disappear from your wallet. That happened with some NFTs, which did not follow the licensing. So I think it's still kind of a wild, wild west. But what I love most is that the creatives takes the boundaries out. So when something falls in the realm of art, the artist tends to start thinking of different ways, morphication. And for me, I'm looking at it, bringing it back into what I'm doing, which is agriculture, digital twin of a piece of art. That piece of art could be something on the wall. It could be something digital. It could be a piece of music, but something physical, which is now digital. So we know where it came from. We know who the farmer is. So imagine if you were able to digitize this and not so much grant rights. That's why I'm so interested in that granting of rights. Are you granting the asset? No, you're granting the residual of what's going to happen to that asset. So the obligation, which is one of the things you're getting with the NFT. I have an NFT. I now put it in publishing. I get residual from that. Same way, now we can look at where there is actually the ability to understand who the farmer is, where he's at or she's at, and creating the opportunity for them to get that liquidity, which is necessary. And where I'm also, and I'd love for you to talk about, because your world is really paving the way for us, because what's happening is something that we can then look at and financially create those financial instruments which create opportunity in other parts. And it's not only farming. Think about manufacturing, anything where anyone is producing something, because we produce more than art. We produce things. So we think about somebody digital art, but what about an artist which is doing a piece of art, which is selling? How does he retain that made right? So I'd love to hear what you think is going to happen, mostly when it comes to the fractionalization.
Well, actually, I have to say, I think, NFTs are kind of a token and a ticket, right? But the bigger opportunity is Web3 as a whole, right? And the immersion and the shift and the change that we're going to see because of Web3. So the metaverse, NFTs being that access into something like that, and essentially how people are going to embrace their digital twins to make in all sorts of different industries. And I love how, you've really picked up on the potentials within agriculture. already that there is going to be an opportunity for a digital twin there. The key words are digital twins. How can you take what you do in real life and apply it into the digital space? It might not be through NFTs. It might be through the opportunity through the metaverse itself. I'm already speaking to people who are real estates or realtors who are finding what their digital twins can be doing in the metaverse by leasing out land in the metaverse. There's opportunities there which are huge. There are people who are interior designers who are suddenly finding that on this land in the metaverse, you can now create a whole entire job for yourself and new kind of opportunities and occupation because you're taking what you know from real life and applying it to the digital space. So I think the big opportunity, is about knowing and understanding and embracing Web3 and really being able to think a little bit outside the box and think to yourself, if I could do what I love to do in Web3, in the digital space, how would that look? Now, having an asset like an NFT and licensing it and making it work harder for you could work for some industries, but it might not work for everyone. And so I think it's just actually about broadening that mindset in general and thinking about how the application of what we've spent years learning since the birth of Web 2 and how that is going to emerge into Web3. And this isn't going to be an overnight thing. This is going to be something that's going to take years to perfect. But if you make an early start, like Genevieve has done with agriculture and like what I'm doing with content and education, hopefully, and this is where we're speculating, is that being an early adopter to this and really kind of educating yourself, understanding how it works and working out where that opportunity is, that's where people will prosper as a result.
One of the things, though, I think we need to also take look at is the regulation and also the opportunity. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made, so there's a lot of bad behavior happening. And when there's bad behavior, the government thinks that they need to protect us. Well, that's why we put them there in the terms of the role. And I think it's important for people to understand also how to influence. And that's what I love about your platform, is that it's educational. It is looking at how do we influence, how do we create that knowledge that then can say, how do I make my mind up of what's happening? Because we are, I love my folks in real estate, but somehow there is a sleight of hand that can happen, which we are all aware somebody's going to figure out how to do it. And I think it's important. And getting government to understand that bit. And actually, I've been asking the question, which maybe you have. I haven't seen much coming out in the NFT world. Deadly silent, but it must be something going on in the background.
Well, I think I did see that there is, I'm not talking about China specifically, but there has been starting to be an interest and a surge in the creation of Asian NFTs, right? So that's something that I think is going to be really positive for our wonderful countries on that side of the world. But you're right, China, traditionally very, very, I suppose, highly regulated, and there's a lot of control there. And I'm not sure that, we've always got to think like the NFT space, the Web3 space is not going to be for everyone. And it totally depends on how you can get access to it. And I think that's what it kind of boils down to. Now, the interesting thing when you say about regulation, I want to just kind of jump back to something you talked about earlier. And you said it's still the wild, wild west. And it very much is. And we have to be very cautious within this space. And I'm always very careful to tell my audience to, do your own research, be very, keep your wits about you, only spend what you're willing to lose. Do not bet your life on an NFT because it is still a gamble. There isn't regulation, and you have to kind of really understand the space in order to prosper in it. And the interesting thing is that regulation can be looked at, and it does it need to be a regulation in the space? I believe that there does need to be a certain amount of regulation. I understand that, decentralization and everything like that is is where people want that more freedom. But with that comes a lot of risks. And so the importance of protecting your assets, the importance of education is really key. And I'm finding that actually when I try and talk to my IRL or in real life friends about it, they're very quick to think that because it's not regulated, that it's completely bonkers and a Ponzi scheme and, you know, something that a cult, I've heard it called before. And, you know, that's where the education point needs to come in, is because if it's then broken down and explained and as simply for people entering the space, you'll then be able to allow people to kind of embrace it in the right way, in a trusted way. However, if people come into the space, immediately get scammed, and there are lots of different scams, from traditional sort of cybersecurity scams, phishing scams, things like that, but also something called rug pulls, which are where projects will build up the hype around a particular project, they will sell out, and then they will disappear because anonymity is so key within the Web3 space, and they can do that. And because there's no regulation, there's no accountability as well. So you kind of can't win. Everyone wants freedom, but with freedom comes risk and problems with that. So I think that the only real way of getting around that is having trusted resources that give the education so that you know how to protect yourself. But you know, and that's where I found my role within this space, and that and I feel very passionately about that. It's about community. It's about trusting people and building those relationships with people in the right way. But without regulation of any sort, there's always going to be a risk. And until that comes to some sort of conclusion, I think we're always going to be in for a bit of a wild ride. It is the gold rush right now, Genevieve. I'm sure you'll agree with that. Everyone is running into the NFT space and just desperate to be a part of it. And with that comes FOMO and lots of problems. And then if people are burned by the NFT space, the problem is that they might not come back. And then how is the space ever going to grow if that's the case?
But I think this is where, though, I think it is going to change, and it's here to stay, unfortunately or fortunately. But it will not be what we have. No, but I think, like, let's say there is even the question of, somebody was talking this week about the F1 and America, I think. Basically, they lost the license. They've been doing for about 3 years the NFT with the F1. F1 with the pandemic became the hottest thing, not only in Europe, but now the US is into F1. And so they didn't renew their license. So you have an NFT, which no longer technically is related to F1. I said, okay, that's one issue. But what happens if the company which actually mints it, or the network, disappears? What happens to your token? And those are things that we need to start thinking about, that there could be a morphing of what has happened right now toward, and I think Punk had something. There was a version 1 of Punk, and there was a version 2, and version 1 didn't have the same value as version 2. So these are things that we need to understand and be able to actually move forward. I think it is here to stay. And also we're going to see the same way in distributed ledger technology or blockchain, where you have the big companies coming in. I mean, it worries me that Amazon and everybody else, the banks, have been taking all these IP to what exactly? And I want, with the NFT, to make sure that we protect it. It's very much right now a small community, but it is going to grow and create it. So I would love to hear, what you think is coming up. We're almost at the end. This has been such a quick conversation. What's coming next? Anything that people should be looking out?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you talk about big companies coming into the space, one of the most refreshing things is that big companies who have already tried coming into the space have not got it right, which is quite refreshing that they haven't come in and dominated. So a great example of this is Adidas. So Adidas made a big announcement that they're teaming with the Bored Apes, with G Money, and with Pixel Vault for punks as well. And they came in, there was a big advert, and then they were doing an NFT drop. And on the day of the NFT drop, there were problems. And, and they held their hands up and said, guys, we're new, we're sorry, we're trying to work through this. This is a new space for us too. And actually, for people who have been in the space for a year, which is kind of what I've been in, which is considered the OG status, that's, that was quite refreshing to see, because it's not about, it's a David and Goliath situation. It's not about the big Goliath just coming in and dominating. It's about the Davids creating those communities that actually will provide the future, because we're providing the paths. There's no hard, fast rules at the moment in the NFT space. So if people are approaching it in the right way, the future will be bright. And what we will go through are these cycles where we will see problems with hype projects, brands coming into the space, some brands being successful, some brands failing, but ultimately they will find a medium kind of, I suppose, through line where everyone can say, this works, this is what works in the space. And this is why certain blue chip NFTs like World of Women, like Cool Cats, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, they're setting the bar for what works for the community and for brands as well. And I think that's what's really exciting, is that, the NFT space is what you make it, but and you can't just come in with your Web 2 tactics and think it's going to work, because it doesn't quite work that way. So the future is already here in the NFT space. We just need to lay down the ground rules, in my opinion.
Adabar, I told you we're going to have to be doing this in London at some point and talk more about this. But it's been amazing to have you. And thank you, NFTCON, for bringing us together again.
Yes, I've loved it. Genevieve, it's always a pleasure. I can't wait to do this in real life with you as well. But for now, this is going to have to do. And it's been really lovely to talk through all of this with you. So thank you for having me.